Letticia McKinley is an absolute OG in this business. How long have you been with FFL now, Letticia?
I think this coming on my eighth year.
Eighth year. Eighth
Hmm.
year, okay. And I know that, correct me if I'm wrong, your biggest year thus far was $410,000 issue paid.
Yep.
Okay. So, guys, if you're asking yourself, am I on the right call? I think that just answered the question. So, one of the things that I really respect about Letticia is agents can come in and they can have a good month, a good week, even a good year. But the people that win in this business are those that outlast everyone. And Letticia has just proven time and time again, no matter what obstacles have been thrown at her, that she can outlast other people in this industry. And that's one of the things that I really respect about you, Letticia. So if you
Appreciate
don't
that.
mind, if you could just kick it off, tell us a little bit about what you were doing prior to working with Family First Life, how you kind of got into Family First Life, and why you decided to partner with Family First Life as opposed to another insurance agency or company.
Good deal. And again, thank you again. It's always, like I said, whenever you guys let me know, hey, I want you on my team call, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm down for it. I really truly do adore you and Marissa. So I'm always game to give back, especially to your team. Your team is awesome.
We feel
So
the
yeah,
same way.
yeah. So before I got into insurance, I worked at a call center.
Okay.
Doing insurance. I was processing insurance payments at a call center. So literally, people will call in, and I would actually call the insurance companies to get people's payments processed. Yeah, that's pretty much what I was doing before
Okay.
I found insurance. But I always had I don't know, I think I was always like intrigued with insurance, and I was like, because there was literally another insurance company in the building that I was working in. I think it's called Hanover Insurance.
Okay.
But they were literally right next to me, and I tried getting a job with them, and I actually didn't get the job. They didn't call me. They didn't call me back. But I was actively trying to get into insurance, and I didn't get that job, I wasn't deterred. I was like, you know what, there has to be another way to get into the industry. And that's when I started looking around for other companies. And then I found my practice company that I first started with, a pretty good
Okay.
company. Um, they're a pretty good company. They were really good with training agents. They were face to face, because at that point in time, everybody was face to face.
Right.
And so they took me out in the field. I always had someone with me when I went out in the field. Um, they're like I said, their training was really good. But their system that they used to acquire leads wasn't that great. So they had they worked with, actually, when you see that Alex Trebek advertisement on TV for that 9.99.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I work with that company, sister company.
Okay.
So when people would call that 9.99 number, and they would tell them that it's not 9.99
Right. Because it's 9.99 per unit.
per unit, right?
Right.
And
Okay.
then they would find out that it's not 9.99, it's like 109 or whatever it was, right?
Right.
When they actually quoted them the actual rate, they were like, hell no, we ain't buying this. So then we would call them,
Okay.
like randomly just call those people, and was like, hey, you did reach out to so and so, but the policy, yeah, the policy, yeah, I know, right, Heather, but hey, that's how they acquire their leads. Yeah, we know that, you reached out to them, and it was super expensive, and we're actually here, and we can actually help you get it a little bit cheaper.
Okay.
So that's how we got our clients. So we either got it through that avenue, or we literally just cold call people,
Got
just
it.
randomly just cold call people, ask them about turning when they turn 65, how about their Medicare? Do they have Medicare?
Okay.
So, long and short, that wasn't sustainable.
Right. Right.
So, so while I was there, I was still actively looking, and that's how I found FFL. And that's when I transitioned from there to here.
How long were you at the practice company, Leticia?
Almost a year. I don't think not quite a year. Almost maybe like 9, 10 months.
Okay. And
Mm.
were you making money? Were you selling?
So I was actually one of the top people
I
in
figured.
yeah, but when I got my 1099 that year, for the entire year, I made 20,000.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. You know, Heather was like, what's the WTF, right?
One thing I'll say about agents that work with FFL that came from prior insurance companies, whether they were captive, IMOs, whatever it may be, no matter like how bad the system was and the leads were, those people still made it happen.
Hmm.
Like Letticia just said, yeah, I was actually, I'm not saying she was making money, guys. I'm not saying it was a good model that she was in, but she still believed in herself enough to make it work.
I had to, girl. Hey, I had to make it work.
When you were cold calling Leticia, what did that look like? Like, did you have like a list? Or I know back then, like not back then, not that it wasn't even probably 10 years ago, but like, did you have like use the phone book or like what did that look like for you? Like, how did you cold call
Um,
people?
so I don't recall where they got the people turning 65 from, but
Okay.
we just got like a list of people that were
Okay.
turning 65.
Got
And
it.
we would either call them or just randomly door knock them.
Got it. Because we were still in home. Okay.
Hmm.
So when you want to complain about leads, guys, I just want you to think back to this. So she had to call someone out of the blue that was turning 65 and pitch them on why they needed final expense life insurance.
And to help them with their Medicare supplement. So the Medicare was how we got in the door. And
Okay.
then when we got in the door, then we would talk about their life insurance options as well.
Okay. So you were just like bait and switching at that point.
Hmm.
Okay. My first company was very similar. We used child safe kits was
I
the
heard about that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I still have PTSD from child safe kits, by the way. So in getting started with FFL, what did that kind of look like for you? Was it easy because you had the leads, or did you have to overcome a learning curve? Back, we were in home too when Leticia got started, so it looked a lot different than it does now with everyone on Zoom and working in the virtual offices and whatnot. But what did that kind of look like for you?
Well, obviously better because I was no longer making 20K a year.
Okay.
Um, so it was obviously better, but it was a transition though, right? Because I came from cold calling people to now my upline at the time, which was John Wetmore, you
Mhm.
know, going from cold calling someone to now being like, you have a lead. You don't have
Right.
to sound like you're a customer service trying to cold call, trying to win people over to book an appointment anymore. These people actually set it up. And so it was a transition from like, hey, how are you? How was your day? How was the weather? To now like how monotone we are right now and like, hey, we're just getting back to you. I had to learn that transition.
Right.
Uh, so going from there to there, that was the biggest, I would say, adjustment for me. And then once I got over that and I got a hang of how we did things here, then it wasn't that difficult at all.
In your first FFL year, what did you issue pay, Leticia?
220.
Awesome. Awesome. So from $20,000 to $220,000 in your first year.
Literally 10x.
Right, right. That's what leads will do for you. I love
Mhm,
that you brought that up because me and Marisa were talking about this yesterday. And one of the things that you're really good at is rebuttaling people, but not in an aggressive manner.
mhm,
Like no matter what someone says to you on the phone, whether you're doing telesales now, you're absolutely crushing it with telesales, or even when you were in the home, you always found a way to overcome the objection and
mhm,
not in like a disrespectful or aggressive manner. You
mhm,
always just like level with the individual and then they end up agreeing with you.
mhm.
So how did you kind of learn that skill set? Like what's the mindset behind that?
I think how I learned that is just how I would want somebody to talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I would want somebody to be respectful. I would want to someone to show me the logics of what they're saying because I'm a very logical thinker myself. And so I think it's just more so how I would want to be talked to is how I always talk to people the same way. And if, if it's not reciprocal, then of course I'm gonna stop talking to that person. I'm gonna disconnect the call. But I always want to keep it on a respectable manner. Yeah.
I love that. And you absolutely do that. If you've ever heard Leticia on the phone, you know that that's what she does to an absolute T. Um, Leticia, one of the things I think you're really good at too is not getting too emotional. Like you're never
Mm,
too up, you're never too down. Like someone could cuss you out on the phone and you literally just move on.
hmm.
How do you keep your mindset right?
Good
What are
question.
some of the things you do? Like, do you have like daily habits that you do before you start dialing, or what does that kind of look like for you?
Yeah,
Very
great question.
level-headed.
Great question, because I think this is one of the areas where a lot of agents struggle with by taking this business too emotional. Um, and when you start to take every no show, every decline, every ups and downs in this business emotional, it affects your mental, right? And so you have to learn to just look at things as a number, not necessarily like people are numbers, but the rejections as just a number to get to the goal, right? To
Right.
get to the yes, right? It's just another number, it's another rejection. I'm gonna get to my yes. And so when you have that mindset of not taking things personally, it helps you to just keep level. It helps you to sustain yourself in this business, especially if you want to be long term in this business. So what I personally do every morning is that now I do affirmations. So every morning when I wake up while getting ready for my day, I have my affirmations playing, and then I would also do an audiobook. So it's either or. So it's
Okay.
either I have a day where I'm doing my audiobooks or my affirmations, or I'm doing like praise and worship.
Okay.
So it's like praise and worship music in the morning, just jam it out to Tasha Combs or something. Because you have to prepare yourself for the day. You have to prepare yourself for the day,
100%.
because we don't know what is on the other line of the telephone sometimes, right?
Mhm.
Some people might just be having a crappy day. Some people might just be crappy. They have things going on, and it's kind of our jobs to, level with them and let them know that, hey, we're here to help and serve them. And if you're not mentally there, how are you going to be able to do that?
Right.
Right? So you have to prepare yourself. You have to prepare yourself each and every day, whatever it is that works for you, right? So whether that be reading a book, whether that be meditation, whether that be affirmations, whatever it is that works for you, I would highly suggest that you take at least 30 minutes to an hour each day before dial day to dedicate to that.
Yeah, because your mindset's everything in this business. I love that. And I think if you talk to any producer that writes at a high level, they'll tell you they have some sort of morning routine.
Mhm.
And I'm huge on Audible. So I love that you just brought that up too. I always listen to audiobooks. The first thing I do after I work out, I journal, I do all that stuff, is I put my Audible on and I make it a point that I listen to Audible at least 1 hour a day, just because it helps keep my mindset right. Even if I'm in the car, I'm taking a shower, like whatever it may be, it just totally transforms your mindset. So I absolutely love that. If you don't mind, Leticia, what are some of your favorite audiobooks? Just like one or two.
Let me see. I'll pull it up. I'll tell you.
Thank you.
Because it's right here. Right now I'm really doing my affirmations, but there's this girl called Jen Sincero. You're a badass at making money.
Uh-huh.
So, anything that's pretty much geared towards making money, mindset, Manifestation. Um, yeah, I love The Secret. I
The
read that all
Secret's
the
one of my
time.
favorites. Yes, I've listened to that was the first audiobook I ever listened to. Absolute game changer.
Yeah. And Think and Grow Rich is
Yeah,
another one of my favorites.
absolutely. It's a classic.
It is. It is. I think everyone should read that book. If you haven't read that yet, Think and Grow Rich, definitely. And I like I said, Jen Sincero, You're a Badass at Making Money. Then she's another book that I like as well, apart from this one. Let me tell you guys what that is. I think it's You're a Badass. So she has a series of different books. Uh,
Okay.
Jen Sincero. I just like her style. Um, she's an author that kind of started figuring out life at 40. Like
Okay.
she was living in her garage. Like, like she's not somebody that was like had it all together. She didn't have it all together. She started figuring out late in life. And then she started getting it together. So it just goes to show that it doesn't matter, like, when you start, how old you are, where you are. Once you decide to develop and focus on your self-development, you can get to where you need to get to. So I like her style.
I love that. And it's so true. Like, it's all going to come back to your sense of belief in yourself. And like Sean always talks about that. Like, you're not going to be able to achieve something until you think you're worthy of it. And it's so true. I'm going to have to check her out. I'm actually not familiar with her. So I'm going to write her name down. I'm going
Yeah,
to.
you would like her style too. She likes to curse. You would like her.
Yeah, I'm good for that. Um, Leticia, so you were in home for how long?
I literally just got out the home like yesterday, not yesterday,
Right.
but
Recently.
but this year is when I actually started doing telesales full time.
Okay. And
I did in home all the way up until last year.
that's what I thought. Okay. Because I know it's been a few months now. And when you initially made that transition from in-home to telesales, what were some of the biggest struggles that you faced? Because I know right now you've been crushing it, but it's different. It's
It,
especially when you've been doing it for that long. It's not like you were in home for 6 months. We're talking about 7 years.
7 years,
Leticia
right?
was in home helping clients. So what were some of the biggest struggles that you had when you made that transition?
It definitely was a struggle, Christina. Like it was. I'm not gonna act like, oh yeah, I'm just, it was easy peasy. It was not. Um, I think for one, not being in person when I think that's my personality. Like I literally like to meet with people face to face. So when everybody was like, yeah, we can do this over the phone, we can transition, we don't gotta drive to people's homes, and we don't gotta, I'm like, I actually do like that. I
Right, right.
I I literally like that. I do. I mean, I might be the one out of millions that do.
You and Rami, the
But Heather,
last men standing.
Heather's like, that's not, mm-mm. Yeah. But I actually do. I actually do like meeting people face to face, helping them. And it's natural for me. It's easy for me, right? And so when I had to do this over the phone and I would get cursed out, as you guys would hear when, when I was dialing, and I would get people telling me, oh, you're a fake, you're a fraud, blah, 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 all this and the third. I was like, I wouldn't be going through this if I was face to face.
Right, right,
Nobody
right.
tells me that I'm a scam to my face when I'm face to face. So it was a struggle. It was a struggle, especially when it came on to getting people's information, like the banking information and all of that at the end. And then they would just like, we would be going through the application. Then at the end, when I'm supposed to get the banking information, then they would want to renege and not go through the whole process. I'm like, what? Like now you want to say that I'm a scam? Like we was
Right.
not a scam when I was giving you all the information. Like why now you want to change your mind? Like I'm like, what the hell? What's going on here? So so it was a struggle. It definitely was a struggle for me. And like I literally don't know what changed, to be honest with you. I just kept on going.
I
I
think
just
that's what
kept
you
on
always
going.
did too. Right. Again, just outlasting and having that sense of belief in yourself. So thank you for saying that. Like you just looked around and you were like, if all these thousands of other people can do this, I can figure this out too.
Hmm.
Not fair to
And I
say.
was
I don't
like,
want to speak for you.
no, 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 I appreciate it. And I was like, yes, I do enjoy being face to face, but is this going to be long term? I
Right,
know that long term I could not sustain being face to face.
right.
It just would not work for to have a long term career. And I do see myself in this business long term.
Mhm.
And so I was like, if that is my goal, I eventually have to get this. I have to get this. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna sit my butt down and keep at it, 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 keep at it until I get it. And it's just like literally been the last couple of weeks where I'm just like I'm just writing so much business every week. I'm just like,
Right. It's
what
just like
happened?
clockwork now. Right. Right. I love that. What are some of the things you do now that you weren't doing initially, Leticia, to be proactive so you don't have to necessarily be reactive? So you're not getting, objected when you're asking for the social or the bank information or whatever sensitive information you're asking for. Or you're not getting that I need to think about it.
Yeah, good question. I think now more so I am not breezing through it. Like before, I was like, oh yeah, so we just have to get you approved. We're just gonna need the billing information and your social and your banking, and then we can just go ahead with the application. Okay. All right. So then I would just go to my application. And I noticed that when I say all of that, even though they hear me and they may agree, they may not agree. I wasn't even listening if they agreed or agreed. I was just going straight to the application.
Right.
So now I am taking a step back because I actually heard somebody say it on this Zoom call. While I was dialing, I heard somebody actually say, do you have those things available?
Hmm.
And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take that and start adding that to the beginning before I actually go to the application. And I started saying that, okay, so now we have to get you pre-approved for this insurance because we don't know what the underwriters are going to come back saying, but we do have to go through that pre-approval process. So you are going to need your beneficiary's information, your name, your social, your ID, and if you have a voided check, go ahead and grab that. Or if you just know your banking and routing information, you could just use that as well. Do you have all that information ready or handy? Yeah,
Right.
okay. All right. Or if they're like, okay, well, I'm gonna go get it. At least they're making an attempt to go get it, then I can proceed on. Um,
Exactly. They
yeah,
agreed to give you the information. So you're
right.
not going through the application and then asking them at the end for the bank info. And then they're like, oh, I don't give
Yeah.
my routing and account number over the phone.
Yeah, I've heard people train on that and they say that that works for them. That didn't work for me.
Hmm.
So you have to do what works for you. And I did it that way and it does not work for me. Every time I get there is always a roadblock. There's always like, well, why do you need it? I'm like, like I thought it
Right.
was over this.
Right.
So I make sure that I lay that foundation down and we are clear before I actually waste my time going into submitting an application for anyone moving, to move in order to move forward.
100%. I always did it the same way. That's what works for me too. Even in the home, before I started the app, I always had them gather that
Exactly.
information. So that completely makes sense to me. And I think if you're a new agent and your skill set isn't necessarily there, it's vital that you're doing it that way because
Hmm.
you're not going to set it up the same way that Heather Robison's going to set it up. She writes 60 grand a month. You know what I mean? You're new, your skill set isn't necessarily there. So you may
Hmm.
not have built the why up enough. They may not have built enough trust. So, like, when you start asking someone for their social or they're routing an account number and you didn't prep them on that, you're
Hmm.
more prone to get that feedback. So I love that, Leticia. I couldn't agree with you more. If you don't mind, what kind of leads are you working? I know when you were in home, correct me if I'm wrong, you were doing all mortgage. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. Are you doing a mix now or what are you doing for leads now?
I'm mainly doing vet leads now. And then I
Okay.
might, mix in some final expense or some IUL leads here and there, but mainly vet leads.
Okay, cool. That's what most of our team is working at this point too.
Mhm.
If you don't mind, could we do a quick role play, just like an intro to your script?
Yeah,
Is
sure
that
thing.
okay? The call on the front end. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Rick, I'll be
The client. Okay. All
yeah,
right.
Janice, who's 65 years old, retired vet.
Okay. And how far do you want me to go?
Um, I think maybe like
Options?
through, yeah, I was gonna say up to options if you don't
Okay.
mind, through health
Sure.
questions and stuff.
Yeah.
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 Okay,
Do that.
cool. All right.
Okay. All right. So ring ring.
Hello,
Hello, Christina.
this is Christina.
Hi, Christina. This is Letticia. I'm just getting back in touch with you here in regards to the information that you had requested for the new state regulated discounted life programs for veterans.
Okay,
Yeah. So I'm just a local field underwriter here. I'm just the one that they have assigned to go over this information with you.
okay,
All right. Can you go ahead and grab a pen and paper so I can give you my credentials?
sure. Just give me a minute to grab that.
All
Okay,
right.
I got that. Got it ready.
Okay, good deal. So I'm gonna go ahead and spell my name for you. It's Letticia. It's Letticia. My last name is McKinley, McKinley. And I'm also gonna provide you my NPN number, which is like my business social security number. That number is 177-673769.
Okay,
Got that?
I do.
All right. And Christina, is this a cell phone number where I can actually text you a copy of my license to?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and text you over a copy of my license. Can you just verify that you received that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So you see that there is my license with my license number here in Georgia,
Yes.
and that's my NPN number. And then that's my business card right there. That just shows you where I'm located here in Georgia, in Marietta, Georgia, off Church Street.
Okay, got it. So I'm going to pause you real quick if you don't mind, Leticia. Guys, what she just did there was two things. Okay. She made sure that the client can get text messages because at this point, like 90% of the e-apps they can sign via text. And she also made sure that they received her credentials. So she's being proactive. She's building trust on the front end before she's even starting the presentation. She's saying, hey, this is who I am, and I'm going to help you today. Keep going, Leticia. I'm sorry.
Okay, good deal. No problem. All right. So, no, I got to remember what I said. Okay. So, most of the veterans, so pretty much what I do is that I'm a veteran consultant. I help veterans with this type of coverage 6 days a week, okay? And so most of the veterans that I help, they typically want to be covered for like one of three reasons. So they either have a mortgage that, God forbid, if whenever that time comes, that they want to make sure that their mortgage is covered or any debts that they may have. They also want to make sure that their burial and their funeral is taken care of, or they just also want to make sure that whenever that time comes, that there is money set aside to leave behind as a legacy for their children or grandchildren. So which one of those would be your main concern?
I want to just set some money aside for my grandchildren.
Okay, nice. How many grandchildren do you have?
Four.
Four? Okay. So you want pretty much all four to have this benefit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's very commendable of you. How old are your grandchildren?
They are 5, 7, 9, and 13.
Okay, that's so cute. That's a good age that they're at right there. Good
Yeah,
deal.
they're fun.
Yeah. So do you want to just make sure that they have just like a little bit of money set aside to help them with their college tuition? Like what were you thinking when you were thinking about leaving something behind? Like how much was the range that you were thinking about?
Exactly. Yeah. I was thinking just something to help them through school. Or if they decide to do a trade, something like that, or start a business so they have some money to start up. Um, maybe like 15, $20,000 each.
Okay, that's very commendable of you, Christina. That's really commendable of you looking out for your grandchildren. All
Thank you.
right. So do you happen to have any insurance on yourself right now?
I do. I have a $10,000 policy.
Is that a whole life or a term policy?
It's a whole life policy.
Okay. Do you know what company that is with?
It's through Mutual of Omaha.
Okay, good. And how much are you paying for that?
$57 a month.
For 10,000, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about correct. Awesome. And you've had that policy for how long?
Um, 5 years now.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So you know that you have a whole life policy, it never goes up or your premium never increased, it stays the same. So that's really good that you have that whole life in place. Now I'm guessing that you had that in place to cover like your burial and your funeral expenses.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, and that's why you're looking to add some additional coverage right now just to pass on to your grandchildren, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, yeah. All right, good deal. So before I go on to the next step, I just wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of how I went over and over and over the why to make sure that this is a client because
Right.
I think a lot of agents struggle with that part right there. Like they just tell them that they just want to just leave something behind and then they just go straight into the other part of the script.
100%. Sometimes as a new agent, especially, you just get so excited that you're actually going through the presentation that you
Hmm.
don't stay there and actually dig out the why. And it's super important as well. I love how you asked like me multiple times about the policy that I have in place, because in
Hmm.
order to tell someone what they need, you need to know what they have.
Hmm.
So,
Absolutely. And I just didn't just take Christina's word for it. When she told me that she had a $10,000 whole life, I asked her what company it is, how much is she paying, how long has she had it?
right,
Because people will say, oh, yeah, I have a whole life. Oh, I have the one that never goes up or never changes. And then it so happened when they tell you it's 300,000 and they're paying like $30 is a term, you know? So
right.
doing this over and over, you will learn all those things as well when you're speaking to clients because you not only just want to help them with what it is that they're trying to get covered for, but you also want to help them with their existing policies as well to see if that is also an avenue for you to write more business.
100%.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
um, so yeah, so all of that ties in at the beginning. I get all that information at the beginning of the call. So once I know that this is in fact a client that I can help, then I'm like, okay, great. So then what I'm gonna have to just ask you just to take 5 minutes. I like to give people um time frame
I
so
love
they know
that.
that I'm not taking forever to get the information to them.
Right.
That they're not rushing me because I already told them I'm going to take 5 minutes. I'm going to take 5 minutes just to ask you a few health questions, another 5 minutes just to ask you a few financial questions. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go over the options with you. That way you can decide which one of these options are going to make more sense to you. After we found a company or an option that works for you, what we are then going to do is to submit an application to that insurance company for them to get back to us to let us know if you would in fact qualify. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. And
great.
I love that because what she just did there is she didn't kidnap the client. She set the proper expectations. She let them know, hey, this isn't like the grocery store where you can just walk in, pick out the bread you want, and say, it's mine, buy it off the shelf. You do have to qualify. And in order to know what you qualify for, I'm going to have to ask you some questions. So I love that, Leticia.
Okay. All right. So then I go into the health questions like I told him that I would. So, are you on any prescription medications right now?
I take lisinopril.
Lisinopril? Oh, you take that for high blood pressure, right?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay, good deal. So have you ever, had any other pre-existing health conditions like any history of diabetes,
No.
cancer,
No.
kidney, liver, or lung issues?
No.
And how about any mental issues? And I
No.
always chuckle when I say that, like, so they don't think that I'm just, so how about any mental issues? No, not diagnosed, right? Okay, great.
Yeah, exactly. Not diagnosed. That's fair.
Right? Because you want to get your clients engaging and laughing as well as much as you possibly can. So then once I get that information, then I go into, okay, so I'm gonna ask you a few discount questions. What is your height and weight?
I'm 5'6",
Okay,
150.
150. Okay. And are you a smoker or a non-smoker?
Non-smoker.
Okay. And do you bank with a local bank, Christina, or with a federal credit union?
Um, I use I use Chase Bank.
Chase Bank. Okay. So I'm guessing that's what you're going to be using for your billing information, correct?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So again, I'm setting the stage. Okay. Already got her committing to using her Chase Bank for her billing. All right. Okay, great. And then you are retired, right?
I am.
Okay. So being that you're retired, you're on a fixed income. So how much do you make monthly after taxes? What does that look like?
About $5,000.
Okay. And then out of that 5,000, when you got to take care of like all the bills and all the expenses, do you have a mortgage?
I do.
Okay. And do you already have something in place to cover the loan?
I don't know.
Okay, because that's another way we can actually help you as well.
Okay.
So after you had to pay the mortgage and all the other debts and all the expenses, how much of that would you say you have left over?
Um, $2,000.
Okay, so you have a decent amount of left over. Are you doing anything with that? Like, are you saving that? Like,
No, I just have it in the bank.
just have it in the bank. Okay, set
Yeah.
aside. Okay, that's good. Okay. Now, how much do you actually owe on your mortgage?
120,000.
Oh, 120,000. Okay, gotcha. And how old are you, Christina?
I am 60.
60. And you said you're a non-smoker, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So based on the information that we just went over, Christina, you already told me that you wanted to make sure that you have at least 100,000 set aside to split with your grandchildren, right?
Ideally, yeah.
Okay.
I can
And
afford it.
then you also owe another $120,000 on your mortgage. So I would say, based on our conversation, you would need somewhere between like 200, 250,000. Was that along the amount that you were thinking?
Yeah, as long as I can afford it, that would be great.
Okay, yeah, perfect. So what I'm actually going to look at here, Christina, is called an index universal life. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so I'm just gonna explain to you in a nutshell. Are you familiar with term and whole life and how that works?
I am. Yes.
Okay, so you know that the term policy, after you paid into it for that term, after that term ends, that policy ends, you no longer have that coverage, right?
Yes, it expires.
Got it. And then with the whole life, it works just like it says. It's a whole life, it's permanent, never goes away. The policy stays the same, the premium stays the same, it never changes, it stays with you. If you even live till you're 105, it's gonna be there.
Right.
Okay. All right,
That's what
good.
I have now with Mutual of Omaha his whole
Oh,
life.
Omaha. Okay, perfect. So what I'm gonna look at for you is called a whole an IUL. So it acts more so like a whole life, but it's a lot better because you get more coverage for less than the cost of a whole life.
Okay.
Okay. So if we do get you approved for this, Christina, this would be a great option because like I said, you're gonna be paying way less than you would if you were to get like a standard whole life for way more coverage.
Okay. That sounds good.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and look at these three options. So I'll start off at 250,000. Excuse me. So I'm gonna go ahead and look at what is 250,000. That's gonna be your gold option. You still got your pen and paper handy?
I do. Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna look at what is 250,000, 200,000, and at least 150,000. Okay,
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and look at all three of these options. And like I said, just to reiterate, this is a IUL, but this it literally acts like a whole life. So it's a permanent coverage. It never goes up, it never goes down. It just stays the same. Your premium stays the same. The other great thing about this policy is that it's going to cover you for what's called living benefits. Are you
Okay.
familiar with living benefits and how those work?
No.
Okay, so living benefits just protect you and cover you in the event of any chronic, critical, or terminal illness. So if you were to have any of these three types of illnesses while you have the policy, you can actually access 80% of this policy.
Okay. Okay. So
Okay.
I can get the money if I got diagnosed with like cancer or something like that, I could potentially access
Cancer, heart
the money.
attack, stroke, any major organ failure, or if you can't perform 2 out of 6 daily activities.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
And you can pull that money, that 80% out of that policy while you're living as well. So you don't have to pass to use it.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. And then the other great thing about this policy is that it's going to build cash value. So, whatever you're putting into the policy is going to build and accumulate in the cash value portion of the policy.
Okay. Yeah, I
Okay.
think my policy that I have now accumulates cash value too, the whole life policy.
Yep. So this will work just the same. It just accumulates probably a little bit more.
Okay.
And also you will be covered day one. So
Okay.
there will be a waiting period.
Got it. Okay, that sounds good.
Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead, like I said, and look at these three options, and then we can decide which one works best for you based off the three options, and then what we have to do to submit an application to see if in fact you will be eligible for coverage.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Leticia, that was awesome. And like I said, just she's so proactive, so she doesn't need to be reactive. She's talking the client through everything. She's explaining everything to the client. She's letting them know what she's going to need on the front end. That way, she's not getting rebutted on the back end. So I absolutely love that. Is that what you used to say in the home too?
Yeah, similar. Yeah.
So when Marisa first started doing telesales, it was hard for her to ultimately make that transition. And one day she called me and I was like, Marisa, why don't you just say what you used to say in the home? Like, and she started doing that and it just worked for her. And I feel like when I was just listening to you, like that's exactly what I just used to say in the house. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? So it's like, I think sometimes we can almost overcomplicate it in our minds and make it
mhm,
something like that it's not. You know, like Leticia, you've written at such a high level for so long now. Once you just realize like I'm doing the same thing, it's just over the phone, like it's
mhm.
not that deep. It's like it takes that complication out of it. Like I can do this. Like the belief is there again, you know? So I absolutely love that. One last question for you, Leticia. When you started doing telesales, why did you transition to the vet leads when you were doing mortgage for so long, if you don't mind me asking?
I just heard everybody that was being successful doing telesales, that's
Uh-huh.
the type that they were saying that they were using. And I was like, I'm just gonna do what everybody else does.
Okay, got it. Got it,
Hmm.
got it. And it's working
And
for you.
and it's working for me so far. I actually really do like it because it's like selling whole life, but at a higher premium.
Right. It's like I say this in the most loving way. It's almost like a glorified final expense lead
It is.
because veterans see the need for life insurance. They've already been exposed to it by the VA, and their
Mhm,
income is typically a lot higher because they're receiving funds for being a veteran, a retired veteran,
mhm,
more so than your typical final expense client is. So the persistency is higher
mhm.
just for those two reasons. So I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it's literally just a whole life presentation. And if you're familiar with selling whole life, you just have to learn how to transition that to selling it to the vets. It's literally just whole life insurance. And that's why it's always so important to um not glance over the benefits of the policy. It's super important to go into that part of it and also have your client interact with you so that they know what exactly the policy is going to cover, because that's not something that all agents do as well. So
100%.
it's always good to have an up on your competition. And if you explain those benefits to the client, like I literally had a client that I'm gonna call back today, and he said he had a term policy, but he has a term policy with living benefits. And so he remembered when the agent told him that.
Right.
Oh, that made his term policy more valuable to him.
100%.
So when you learn how to sell on value, I think that's one of the reasons too why I've been writing so much higher premiums, is because I sell more so on value, and like really stress to them how important it is to have a whole life or an IUL coverage. Not knocking term if that works or whatever, but I just know that for me that's more valuable. And so when you learn the value of presenting the living benefits and the whole life, and especially talking about not the coverage not going into effect right away, and not having that 2-year waiting period like a lot of
Right.
policies do, they're like, you can hear the difference when they're talking to you. They're like, really? Oh, okay. Just takes one premium for you to be covered right away. Like, hmm. So when you learn how to tweak your presentation and just adding those little parts of value to what you're doing, you will see a difference as well.
100%. I love that. And living benefits are so important because it's different when you're telling someone, hey, this is going to pay out in the event of your death, than, hey, this is going to pay out if you get sick. or if you die. That's really, really beneficial to a lot of people. So I absolutely love that. And one other thing that I love that you did is you didn't talk too much about the cash value. And I even tried to make you. I was like, oh, well, the whole life policy that I have now, it builds cash value. And you were like, yeah, basically this one does the same thing, but it might just accumulate a little bit more. Because guys, it's so important when you're selling like an IUL or an IULE for death benefit purposes that you're not sitting there telling them, hey, this is going to make you rich. Hey, you're going to be able to borrow against that. Because if they take too much money out, or if they just have the improper expectation of like how much money it's going to accumulate, one, they're either going to get mad, or two, the policy is just going to end up lapsing. And then they're going
Mhm.
to be in the same situation that they were initially with no
Yeah.
life insurance. So
It's not a become your own bank.
right, exactly. And if someone does want to be their own bank and they can fund it and they can qualify for it health wise, that's
Mhm.
completely fine. We can write them a policy like that. But typically,
Mhm.
when folks are filling out these forms for life insurance purposes, that's not what they're looking for. So it's super important not to over talk
Yeah.
about what the cash value is going to do for them, because that's not what it's meant for in IUL with America or Mutual of Omaha or Foresters or whomever. So
Mhm.
I love that.
100%.
Um, any advice that you would give to a new agent that isn't necessarily getting the results? This is the last question, I promise. I appreciate it so much. But any advice that you would, or what advice rather, would you give to a new agent that is trying, they're working with Family First Life full time, but they're just not necessarily getting the results that they want?
The main thing I would say is that discipline and consistency is what is going to yield results. That is literally all it takes. If you're disciplined, you're going to outlast everyone. And if you're consistent, eventually it's going to start clicking. Some light bulb in here is going to start clicking for you and it's going to start making sense. For me, I don't even think, even when I was writing at a high level, it still didn't make sense to me. Like I was just going out there and just working just to work. you know, I literally don't think that selling, even though, I was like training and showing people how to do it, I don't even think it was really, really like I really was like I knew 100% what I was doing until like 3 or 4 years in this business.
Right, right.
Right? Like, is that the same for you? It's like we don't really know what we're doing, guys. Even though we're doing it, we don't really know what we're doing. We're
We're
just
just
doing
doing it. Exactly. Right, right.
it. I swear, we don't really know. Maybe Sean Mike knows. Maybe he doesn't even know either. I don't know. But I really don't. Pretty sure he knows by now. But the point I'm making is that um just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Just do what we say that we're doing. Just do that. Like whatever it is that people say that they're doing at a high level, just do it.
Just follow
And
the
just keep on
blueprint.
doing it
Yep.
and doing it and doing it and doing it until you start doing it yourself.
I love that. I love
So,
that. Mic drop. I love that. It's so true. And it brings it back to like how you started the call. Like, guys, at the end of the day, this is sales. Like, it's just numbers. So as
mhm,
long as you're put the activity in, it doesn't matter
mhm,
where your skill set is. As long as you're putting the activity in and you're getting your numbers on the scoreboard, like eventually you're going to be a winner on the scoreboard.
mhm.
No, it's just all numbers. And
Yeah. And also just to add to that, guys, I know that when we all first start out, we don't have that, that 2,000, that 3,000 to invest right away in our business. But I promise you, whatever you have, if you have, 300, 400, $500, you have to invest that though every week.
100%.
There can't be, okay, I'm going to invest $500 this month and then next month I invest another 500. No, that's not going to work. Okay. So you have to do that every week. It doesn't matter if you only can get like a few age leads, um, $3 leads, $1 lead. It does not matter. Just invest in yourself every week. Every week, give yourself a shot to call up somebody, to talk to people, to listen to these calls, to learn, to take things away, to implement. Do it week after week after week after week, and you will soon start seeing the results.
100%. Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate you so much, Letticia. I don't want to take too much of your time, but this call was invaluable. Thank you so much for being on.
Appreciate you guys.